Hello everybody, my name is Zool and welcome to my video on how I make videos. I just recently hit 500 subscribers and I was originally going to do some sort of little funny parody special thing, and I decided to do this instead as a little celebration. Now, why am I doing this? Well, firstly, I have a bunch of people who have requested, hey, how do you make videos? What do you edit with? Just a couple questions like this, and it'd be nice to just have a video to sort of show everybody exactly what it is. Second reason is a lot of people who follow my channel are actually video makers themselves. I've noticed quite a few comments from people who have about 100-ish subscribers, 50, 60, or people just asking me and they're just starting out. And obviously when I started out, I really had no idea what I was doing, and I just sort of looked all over the place and got a bit of information. So for those of you who want this information, it's right here. So I'm going to break this video up into 3 parts. I'm going to talk about my hardware, I'm going to talk about my recording software, and then I'm going to talk about my editing software. So without further ado, let's get into the first step of the video. Alright, it's time to talk about the hardware. So, I guess I should start off by telling you what microphone I have. I use the Blue Snowball microphone. It is a pretty decent standalone microphone. You can get it for about $100. I got it on sale at about $50 or $60, something like that, from Amazon a while back, and it has served me well so far. Now, it is definitely not the best from what I can hear on other people's videos and just from making it on my own. The Blue Yeti or the Rode Podcaster sound a lot better, but they are much more expensive. So if you're on a bit of a budget like I am, and this is sort of just a casual thing, a Blue Snowball would take you very far. As far as headsets mics are concerned, I believe Audio-Technica makes some pretty good ones, although I've never used one myself. And I also used a Turtle Beach microphone that sounds a lot better on some of my older videos. Especially with the headset that I use. I used to use the Tiamat from Razer, which I did not like at all. And I currently use the Logitech G930, which is a really awesome wireless headset. It doesn't have a very good mic either, even though it's a pretty premium product, because most people, when they make headsets, especially gaming headsets, focus a lot more on the sound, and they don't put a lot of attention to the microphone, which makes it sound awful when you're recording. In my opinion, this is pretty damn important if you have a YouTube channel, because most people are actually really concerned with the audio quality. People will forgive a little bit of bad video, a little bit of stuttering, but I find if your audio doesn't sound very clear, doesn't sound very good, then people are not going to want to watch your video. They'll click away if there's bad audio. People are a lot less tolerant than they were a long time ago, so honestly, if you're getting serious about this YouTube thing, get a mic that sounds good and speak clearly. You really need to work on that, because I honestly think that that's a very important thing to do. Now, another thing that goes along with my Blue Snowball microphone is the custom pop filter that I built. There's a video tutorial for that on my channel. You can make it yourself in case you don't want to order one online, you don't have a credit card or you're not able to order one online. You can make this for really cheap. You can replace it whenever you want, and it actually looks fairly nice. You can go ahead and do that. Honestly, this is the way that I do things. It may not be the best way, but that's about it. If you're interested in anything else, my computer specs, that kind of thing, that can be found in the description of my channel. As far as peripherals, I use some Razer keyboard with MX switches, blue. Not the biggest fan of this keyboard because it's a little bit clicky. I'm looking to switch in the future. And I use the Razer Naga Epic, which is a pretty good mouse. I like it. I used to play a lot of MMOs, so that's where that came from. But that's pretty much it for the hardware section of this video. Let's get into the more interesting stuff, the software. Alright, for the software portion of this video, we are going to be talking about all the software programs that I use to record things with, and I'm going to give you an alternative to them, because I think it's very important to give people options, especially for those of you out there who are on a bit of a budget. So the first thing we're going to talk about right now is desktop recording, and for that I use Bandicam, the free version. This is limited to 10-minute clips with a watermark, which you will see here because that is actually what I'm using right now. It's an awesome program to record your desktop. It works really well. You don't get a lot of lag when moving windows around and things like that, which is really nice. It also has the option of only recording one monitor at a time, and since I use 2 monitors, it works really well. Fraps does have a way to record desktops, but it can only record the whole thing at once, which gets me this big wide thing, which I then have to crop out later, and that's kind of annoying. As far as settings go here, we can take a quick look at my settings. I don't really know too much about it. I just leave it on motion JPEG, just this kind of thing. I honestly don't use this program too much or in any detail. It's just for the installation videos only, and it's unregistered, which means that there is a watermark. Now, you can actually go ahead and buy this, but it is about $40, which is why I haven't sprung for that so far, because it's very expensive and the free version serves me well. Now, if you want an alternative to this, there's a program called Cam Studio, which is completely free and open source. I'm thinking of doing a video on that because that's what I originally used to use to record my desktop. It doesn't have a watermark, it can record at any resolution you want, it has nice small file sizes, it's fairly high detailed as well. The only problem is there's a little bit of lag when moving windows around, which I had a bit of a problem with, but if you watch any of my old videos, that is actually what I was using. Any video that doesn't have the Bandicam watermark is using Cam Studio. And I had the settings pretty good, but I found at the end Bandicam was a lot better because I tend to move folders around and I hate the little bit of lag that you get there. But that is an option for those of you there, and at some point in the future I'm going to do a video showing you how to set that up and get your settings nice so you can actually use that and you don't have to pay any money, it's completely free, that kind of thing. I will do a video on showing you my settings for that. But recording your desktop probably isn't the thing you're the most interested in. You probably care a lot more about recording gameplay. And honestly, I understand, because that makes the most sense. That's the most difficult thing to do. And obviously, in your mind, you're thinking, well, Fraps, because it's the biggest contender in this category. And that's actually what I'm going to list as my alternative. Fraps kinda sucks, at least in comparison to Dxtory. It uses very large file sizes, the quality isn't that great, it has a very heavy performance impact on your PC, and it just, in general, isn't that awesome. I use a program called Dxtory that's a lot better, and I'm going to show you my settings, but there is a couple of reasons to use Fraps, and that's the compatibility. Fraps works with pretty much any game ever, whereas Dxtory does have problems with certain games. Amnesia: The Dark Descent is one that I know it has a little bit of a problem with, so you have to keep that in mind when looking at it. Dxtory is also slightly more expensive, although to me it was negligible. That is something to keep in mind. But we're going to open up Dxtory now, and we're going to take a look at my settings. So the first two tabs don't really matter. This tab here is the hard drive write speed. You'll want to do a overclock, or a benchmark here to check the speed of your hard drive. The faster, the better. I'm using a WD Black dedicated 1TB hard drive for my recording. It records very, very fast, so I'm able to record at 1080p at a decently high frame rate fairly easily, which is a good thing to note because otherwise you can get a little bit of a lag or a stutter in the gameplay. But that's not the most important settings. This is just the hotkeys. I just use F10 to stop recording, and I have the num- key to move the overlay around because some games like Kerbal Space Program have stuff in the corners that I need to read. This tab here is the most important one for Dxtory. This is how you get your settings. The codec that I use is the Lagarith Lossless Codec. This is the best codec to use if you are making YouTube videos. There is no other codec that is going to give you as good performance to file size ratio, with quality also being as good, if you know what I mean. Like, it's the best balance of the three. The quality is actually very high. The file sizes are fairly small, considering the quality, and it also doesn't bog everything down, which is very nice, especially if you have a pretty fast hard drive. I'm going to go into the settings here just to show you what I use. I don't enable null frames, although you can and get a slight performance increase. I use multi-threading because I have a multi-threaded CPU. I have an i7, and I keep it on YV12. Technically, RGB is the best quality, but it causes a lot of lag and lowers your FPS a little bit too much for my liking. I lock the frame rate to 30 FPS because, of course, that is what YouTube is at, so that is what I lock it to, because there's no sense recording extra frames that you can't see. Other things. I set the quality to 100. I don't do any cropping or clipping here, and I set it to 100% scaling. You can set it to size scaling and select a resolution, but I like to use 100% scaling because some games like KOTOR 2 don't always launch for me at 1080p, especially since I had some performance problems with that before I got all of the other cores involved running that game. At one point I only had one CPU core affecting it, and that caused my frame rate to drop too low, so that's why that is. You can also synchronize synchronize the video FPS to your game FPS. This is something I don't recommend because it actually lowers your FPS to 30 and it makes games extremely hard to play. You can include the overlay, which is just the frame rate counter in case you want to show people what your FPS is, and you can include the mouse cursor. I should probably actually check that off because in a lot of my videos no one can see my mouse and they get annoyed. Next is the audio tab, and this is actually a very important tab as well. As you can see right here, you can actually set multiple audio tracks, and this is why I use this over Dxtory. For the main device, I use my Blue Snowball to record things at 100% volume, and I have the sound setting right here at this, whatever that says, PCM at 48,000 Hertz, 16-bit stereo. The second one, I use the speakers from my Logitech G930 headset. So this allows me to modify the game sound and my voice sound separately, so that if I talk too quiet or if the game is too loud, I can balance those out hypothetically. I usually do a very piss poor job of that though, because I have pretty poor hearing and it's very difficult for me to balance sound. But you can actually add as many audio tracks as you like. You can add a third one. I could also record the sound, for example, from my headset mic, if I'd like to have sort of a backup mic just to sort of get stuff in case I stutter, say a word. I don't normally do this, but if I'm recording something very important, like some of my modding IRL videos or my unboxings, I actually generally do have a backup mic running of some sort, just so that in case the main mic doesn't pick me up when I'm moving around, I still have the audio of my voice, albeit in a lower quality. This next setting is just for screenshots. I don't use this to make screenshots, so I don't really do anything. If I would set it to JPEG and probably throw the quality up to 100. And that's pretty much all I would do. I would also keep it at 100%. This is just because JPEGs are a much better sort of format, especially for uploading to YouTube because of the better compression rate and all that kind of stuff. Finally, the advanced settings here. These I just sort of leave just like this. I've messed around with them a little bit, and this is pretty much the best that I can go. The most important thing here is the processing threads. You want this to be as high as you can go. If you're using an i5, you probably have 4 cores. This is what a lot of gaming systems have. I use an i7 with 8 cores, the 4770K. So I keep this as high as I can, and because this program uses hyper-threading fairly well, it works a lot better that way. If you use multi-GPUs, like Crossfire or the other one, whatever it's called, you want to enable this because it will allow the GPUs to work in process. I also force CPU processing. This is not actually recommended. I would recommend turning this off, but it does get me slightly better performance in KOTOR, which is notoriously badly utilizing my CPU anyway, so forcing some of the processing off my graphics card does seem to get me a couple of frames in that game. Alright, let's talk about the software that we're using. So the software that I use is Sony Movie Studio Platinum 12. It is a very powerful video editing software. It's sort of like a cut down Sony Vegas. Now, if price is not an option for you, if you know exactly what I mean, then Sony Vegas would probably be the best thing to use for editing YouTube videos. It's very easy to use and it's extremely powerful. Now, for those of us with cost limitations like me, Sony Movie Studio Platinum 12 is probably the best bang for the buck. It's about $100 on Amazon. I just had it shipped to me, and it works very, very well. It has good file format support, so you can render to the correct things for YouTube. It allows you to edit 20 video and 20 audio tracks, which I believe is more than enough. It also has some little things. I can edit in 5.1 surround, I believe. It has chroma keying effects, a white balance tool, color correction, that kind of thing. It even comes with a couple of pretty cool free effects if you buy the full version, which is pretty nice. I would not recommend Sony Movie Studio 13. Vegas 13 is fine if you've ever used that. I've used the trial of Vegas 13, and it works just like this. It is even more powerful than this by far, and if you're going to get Vegas, Vegas 13 Pro would be the way to go, although it is about $600. But the Sony Movie Studio 13 is really bad. It actually uses a touchscreen interface, which makes all the icons huge and awful. It does allow you to edit in 4K, which I don't think the software that I use does, but that doesn't affect me because I just do gameplay video, and 4K YouTube videos are kind of pointless if you're doing gaming. So I would recommend going with Sony Movie Studio Platinum 12 if you're planning on buying it. That's about $100. You can also just go with Sony Movie Studio 12, which is a pretty good consumer level software as well. It's about 50 bucks. So if you just want to have a fairly advanced software to edit your videos, then that is what I'll go with. So let's actually take a look right now at some of the software, which we can see right here. This is actually me making the video that we're making right now. I actually just cut us in right as I was recording this audio, and we can take a look at the software now. So the first thing that we need to look at is right here is the tracks. So as we can see, I use a video overlay track here. This is usually where I put the text, other such things. I put any overlays at the top. Text will go here, or images. The gameplay video, or just the video in general, goes on this track, then the voiceover audio, then either the background music, which you can see here, or the game sound, and then finally some music if I'm making a Let's Play. I'm going to open up a project here that I have. It doesn't have any of the video footage here, but this is what a typical Let's Play looks like to me. This is what my video tracks look like. Now, I don't have any of the raw footage for this, but this is episode 14 of KOTOR. Each of these is a clip with different balanced audio, little sound effects here. We can see that there's a lot of cuts and a lot of editing. These take me a very long time to make, and of course all of the videos have to be edited in as well. Along with all the text, which I use different presets here for. As we can see, I have Bastila, Big Z, I have all the different text formats that I use, and I always keep an outline on my text. This is a good recommendation for you, is to actually use a black outline on any text that you have. Now, you don't see the outline here, but if you have say a red background with red text, the black outline will make it so people can easily read your text on any colored background. This is what I use for my simple title preset, which I use for the titles in all my videos. If it loads the simple title here, let me just go ahead and insert a new text media. So this is the default white, and there could be some problems with that, so I use what I call simple title, which has a black outline. Now, obviously you don't see the outline here, but if we drag it over some video, you'll see right away that there's a black outline. And this is actually really useful in case there's white in the background or different colors. It allows, even if there's a dark or a light color, for the title to stand out no matter what. This is just a really good tip for those of you who want to put text on your videos. I know it's a little bit weird for me to be specifically mentioning this now. So obviously I also have a very large library of sounds, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Now I'm going to do a whole video on where to get sounds, but for now this is a folder of all the different music I use, and there's a lot of different kinds. I get a lot of these through my network, although I will show you where to get some things. I'm partnered with Creative Nation, and they provide you a very large library of royalty-free sound that you can search through, which is pretty useful. I also have the Brick Wars, which is the KOTOR music that I use right here. I have the Inkspots collection, which is all under Creative Commons, and then I have a folder full of different sound effect things, you know, TV static, that screaming sound, which probably made you feel really bad about yourself. Yeah, I should feel bad, you know, that kind of thing. And just some fun little sound effects, and they really add a lot to the production quality of my videos. So in general, that's about it. I go ahead, I also add, brightness and contrast to all my videos. I go ahead and add about this much brightness to my videos because YouTube does have a tendency to darken things out. Because I bought the software, I have this new blue auto contrast option, which I accidentally applied to the last episode of KOTOR, which gave it a bit of a color correction effect. I didn't really mean to, but it is why the video itself looks a little bit strange to most people. As you can see, the color balance isn't quite right, but it is a pretty interesting thing. This is the first video I actually edited with this software. Before that, I was using something else. So, alternatives to this. Well, obviously, on the upside, Sony Vegas. If cost's not an option, go ahead and use that like I mentioned before. On the downside, I would recommend actually using Windows Movie Maker. Not the one that comes with your computer, obviously, because that one's pretty bad, but I believe it's called Windows Movie Maker 2.6. It's a nice simple software, doesn't require a lot of work. It's not very advanced, but if you're just making a Let's Play and putting clips together, that would be the software to use. Honestly, it's nice and easy. In the future, I am going to be doing a couple of Sony Vegas, or not Sony Vegas, I guess Sony Movie Studio tutorials, although I'm going to call them Vegas tutorials because that's what most people think of the software as, in order to show you guys some tips and other such things. Now, there's probably a couple of other questions you have. Where did you get your intro? And how to get some good royalty-free music, and that is going to be for another video because this video is long enough and I probably don't want to keep you any longer. So I hope this video helped you very much. I'm gonna have to add this clip into the video now. Obviously I can't do that while we're recording it, but it's gonna go right here. I'm gonna extend out the background noise here and add it in, so probably about this long. I'll drag this, which is my little annotation template here that I made myself, and move that over there. And I made this using a program called GIMP, which is a good program for editing thumbnails and stuff like that. And I'm going to show you a little bit about that in another video as well, I think, because I'm planning on doing a bit of a video making series while I get out of my modding tutorial slump. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Zool. Have an excellent day. So I was about to render this video, and then I realized I didn't show you guys how I rendered the video, so I figured that is exactly what I should do. And then of course I'll have to include this in and then render it, but yeah, so as we can see here, I used the Sony AVC/MVC render setting. I based this off of the Internet 1280 by 720 at 30p setting, and I customized it. So I have it at high definition 1920 by 1080p using AVC. This gets you a very nice codec performance, whatever it's called, for uploading to YouTube. It's not perfect, it's not exactly what YouTube uses, but it definitely works for me and I've never had a problem with it so far. I set it onto high and I just leave these settings exactly how it is. I allow the source to adjust the frame rate because this is a film setting and I actually record at 30 FPS. But if you leave it like that, I have not experienced any problems either, so I'm not really sure which way is the best way to do it. I just use this progressive scan here. As we can see, you can change the bitrate, but I just leave it right where it is once again. I actually render using GPU if available most of the time because it helps, although you can render using CPU only if you have a problem. I know Shoelace, who you may have seen some of his videos, when he tries to render things on his PC, he can only render using the CPU. Audio settings here, I just leave these pretty much as the default of what they are. I'm not really that good at editing audio, so I just leave it there. I have it rendered to an MP4 because that is what works best for uploading it to YouTube. I don't know what else to say. And then I just use the project settings, although if you're really worried about quality, you can go ahead and set this to best. And that's pretty much it for my render settings. Like I said, I'm going to do a detailed video on my software at a later date. I'm sorry this video drove on a little bit long, but I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much. I've been Zool. Have an excellent day.